In this video, I'll show you how to find gray literature using site searching in Google. But first, what is gray literature? To start, let's go over terms you should already be familiar with: scholarly and popular sources. Scholarly sources are produced by academic journals and scholarly publishers. They are written and reviewed by experts within the same field. Scholarly sources also go through a rigorous review process: peer review for journal articles and scholarly review for books. These sources are published by academic journals or scholarly presses, and their main audience is other scholars. Popular sources, on the other hand, can be written by anyone. Formats include news articles, magazine articles, social media, blog posts, podcasts, and more. Anyone can produce this information, and it is not cited or reviewed in a rigorous scholarly way. News articles often go under review within their publishing company, but that type of review is not the same as scholarly peer review, and it can vary greatly depending on the news organization. Gray literature is basically everything that falls in between these two categories. It can be defined as anything published by entities whose main purpose is not publishing. Formats for gray literature include government documents like laws or policy briefs, and information like white papers, working papers, and reports produced by NGOs, nonprofits, think tanks, as well as academic centers and private companies. So how can you find gray literature? It is not produced to be sold, so most often it is not behind a paywall. You might come across this information in library databases, but the easiest way to find gray lit is searching on the open web using a trick called site searching. Site searching enables you to narrow your results to specific domains or websites. Yes, many websites have their own search boxes, but they can't really compete with Google's search algorithm. I'll be using Google Chrome. Be aware if you're using a different browser, your search results might be a little different than mine if you run the same search. The syntax for a site search is pretty simple. Whatever keywords you wish to use, the word site, followed by a colon, and the domain or website you wish to search within. The most important part of this is that there are no spaces between the later half of the search phrase. Before I do a site search, I'm going to start with a general search. This will give me an idea of possible domains and websites to focus in on. The general search I'm going to start with is going to be pretty simple. So before I start clicking into any of these resources, I just want to get an idea of the types of domains and websites that are being returned. So immediately I can see that there's a lot of .orgs, but specifically the Gates Foundation seems to be a big one. And I can see from my first search result that this initiative is sponsored by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So the Gates Foundation is one of the sites that's being returned a lot. There's this Alliance India, AIDSFreeUSA.gov. So I'm getting .orgs and .govs returned. I can see this article from NCBI. So this is one of the PubMed Central articles. So I'm getting some scholarly results within here as well. See what's on the next page. All right, so I'm getting even more results from different nonprofits, perhaps. Just because something is a .org does not mean it's a nonprofit, but chances are it could be. All right, so this is giving me a pretty good idea that .orgs might be something I want to focus in on. So what I can do is add that to my search. Once again, the syntax is just going to be site:.org. If I wanted to focus in on one of these, I could always choose Gates Foundation. I could add that into my search. It's always important to spell things correctly. And we can see everything about Avahan within the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation website. Now, another thing that we can try is to look at specific country websites. In the guide that Justina and I have created for this class, we included a link to all the country codes. So I'm going to enter that in here. And I'm going to find the domain URL for India. All right. So from here, I can see that .in is the one we'd like to use. So I'm going to go back to my search and modify this a little bit. So since we're going to be searching directly in the India domain, I am simply going to do Avahan site.in. And here you can see everything that's published within that country domain that has to do with Avahan.